Independence Mall. This is Eyewitness News.
Again, storm whip waves pose a new threat to the already ravaged New Jersey and Delaware shores. Good evening, everyone. I'm Larry Kane.
And I'm Dawn Stensland. Tens of thousands of people are watching the tides and really crossing their fingers tonight. Yet another winter storm is clawing at the bruised and battered beaches. And Eyewitness News is live on the scene.
Eyewitness News reporter Robin McIntosh is once again facing the storm head-on from a jetty in Avalon tonight. Robin?
Well, Larry, here we go again. It's sort of a good news, bad news situation down here tonight. The good news is there's no tidal flooding the way there was 2 weeks ago in that nor'easter. The bad news is these gale force winds continuing to pound this surf, continuing to drive it in towards the shoreline, tearing away at the beaches here.
Coastal residents, especially those who live in areas where serious beach erosion occurred a couple of weeks ago, are urged to pay particular attention for additional updates on this storm.
Weather warnings like this one have been issued almost weekly this winter to oceanfront communities up and down the Jersey Shore.
It's one of those things that happens in nature. Man's not going to stop it.
Yeah. I guess Mother Nature has the last word, huh?
Always.
Gale force winds, high tides, and resulting beach erosion have taken a heavy toll on seashore towns like Sea Isle City, where Mayor Len Desiderio hoped the town's newly installed geotubes would hold one more time, making a wish list for Trenton and Washington disaster agencies.
A wish list for Sea Isle City would be the permits for the groins in the south end and in the north end. But a short-term goal would be a geotube for our north end from 1st Street to 12th Street.
You can see how much beach has been eroded.
Bill Van Sciver has called his beachfront house on Ocean Drive home for 27 years. This winter's storms, though, have swept away his yard and his dreams.
All of my decks, all of my dunes, stones, decoys, lobster traps, bird houses, they're all gone. And none of it's insured.
Bill Van Sciver is alone here as the water comes closer to his home at high tide. His wife refuses to stay and watch the ocean take away what's left. But this is his office, his work, and his home, and he has no other choice but to stay.
It's disrupted my family. My wife is up with my son, commutes back and forth. What's it been like? It's been hell. It really has.
And back live now. Believe it or not, you're looking at low tide here in Avalon. You know, there are a lot of Bill Van Scivers down here at the Jersey Shore just waiting for Trenton or Washington to provide the fundings to rebuild and replenish, but they can't do that until these storms stop, and right now they show no signs of stopping. In the meantime, the next critical time is high tide tonight. That's between 11 and midnight. Hopefully those winds will die down and these beaches can take a little bit of a rest. That's the story live from Avalon. And we'll go back to you, Larry and Dawn.
Hopefully so. Thanks, Robin. The question of the hour is, how bad is it going to get tonight?
Thanks. Tom Lamaine is tracking the storm and the storm, KYW Storm Center, and the tides as well. What's it look like, Tom?
Well, it looks pretty good, Larry. There is good news here, and it's all because of the positioning of the storm itself and the positioning of the moon. Let's take a look at the storm itself right now. Our radar is picking up the storm probably in the center of the Ohio Valley, and it is moving in a good direction and rapidly, too, toward the north. Therefore, no coastal development will take place. Now, as Robin said, the winds will probably die down, and not only will they die down, they'll change direction and come in from the southeast instead of the northeast, and that will make a big difference in tonight's high tide, which will run about a foot above normal, maybe 2 feet. So the stormy weather will bring gale warnings along the shore, continuing, and the winds will go from the east to the east-southeast at 20 to 40 miles an hour. And that's a favorable direction for tides. The wind advisory continues here in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. So at high tide tonight, we're looking for the tides to be about 1 to 2 feet above normal, and that's not too bad. Storm looks like it's going to clear out. We'll let you know and take a look at the 5-day when I come back.
Thank you, Tom. We'll see you in a little while.
This weather scope is sponsored by Midas Auto Systems Experts. What can we do for you today?
This is Weather Scope.
The weather has been wreaking havoc across the east today. Many folks facing severe thunderstorms, flooding, and even tornadoes. Welcome to Weather Scope. I'm Mike Bono. For more on the storm system, we turn to Dan Atkinson right now in the Forecast Center.
Thank you, Mike. We continue tracking a storm which is moving very slowly. It actually started on Sunday as a low-pressure area that developed in the Gulf of Mexico. It's now a low-pressure area not much further to the north. It's over western portions of Tennessee. And with that position and the moist, unstable air being swept into the southeast and mid-Atlantic, here's a look at the area where there is still a threat for some isolated strong to severe thunderstorms. Area of greatest threat from now through noon Wednesday would be over central portions of Virginia, where there could be isolated severe thunderstorms. There are no watches in effect at this hour and no warnings as well. But there could be, even in the metro Atlanta area during the evening, some isolated strong thunderstorms as some cells begin to move on eastward out of Alabama. And we take a look at the surface map, and here is the low pressure area, which is the heart of this storm system. Not a lot of precipitation on the southern portion of this system now. Most of the rainfall is over the Ohio Valley, but a cold front which stretches now through Jacksonville, Florida, is pushing through an area where earlier, particularly last night, there was lots of rain. In fact, it amounted to as much as 7 inches of rain in parts of northeast Florida, and flood warnings are in effect now for 15 counties of northeast Florida. We'll check the additional watches and warnings and advisories in just a moment, but first off, we want to show you what has been the impact of this system in parts of North Carolina, where you've been feeling the effects of this storm. High winds have toppled trees into power lines and homes, and Carolina Power and Light reports thousands of people are without power. Also, heavy rains are once again threatening to send creeks flowing out of their banks. It was a similar situation in Tennessee, with one car crashing into a tree that was blown into traffic in North Knoxville. Fortunately, the couple in the car was only shaken up and not seriously injured. The tree also took down a power line as well, leaving many without electricity in that area. Well, we have, as additional results of this storm, the coastal flood advisories in effect here along the coast of North Carolina, particularly from Cape Lookout to Surf City, North Carolina. Also, heavy surf advisories from Savannah, Georgia up to Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, and gale warnings posted now from Little River Inlet, North Carolina, all the way up the coast to Eastport, Maine. So a sprawling storm system producing a lot of wind along the east coast. And one of those areas where the wind is picking up is Long Island. And the Weather Channel's Bill Keneally is standing by on the south shore of Long Island, not too far from JFK. And Bill, what's happening at Long Beach?
It's a pretty mean night out here, Dan. We have a real stiff northeast wind blowing. As you said, we have a gale warning up. Now, the good news is, with a gale warning on the south shore with a northeast wind, it is not necessarily pulling the water towards the beach. It's kind of running it down the beach right now. And the other facet that's good right now is that it's a low tide. We'll be going to a high tide around midnight tonight. But the areas of concern, I'd say, might be the this side of the Great South Bay as you get out towards Fire Island, and also on Long Island Sound as you get up around Sunken Meadow State Park, and heading westward from there, maybe over towards the Eaton's Neck area, and also the western end of Long Island Sound. That water might get welled up in there if that northeast wind persists long enough. But Dan, safe to say it is going to be a rain event, nothing other than that. Nothing new here, as we've had a meager ½ an inch of snow officially this winter at the Central Park Weather Service, where they keep the official records. So again, rain and wind, and we'll be here all night tonight. Dan?
Thank you, Bill. And of course, areas to the north of you, the precipitation will be running into some colder air, and snow will likely fall in parts of New England. In fact, if you are going to be traveling across New England tomorrow morning, factor in some extra travel time. You're likely to find a wintry mix across central portions of New England, westward into northern portions of New York State. Here's a look now at the current radar satellite composite across the southeast, and things much quieter now across the Carolinas and Florida, much of Florida and Georgia. Some drier air has swept up. But there are areas, as you see here, where some hefty thunderstorm cells have once again developed and are sweeping from eastern Alabama in toward the metro Atlanta area. Earlier today, there were some injuries as this storm produced some wind damage at Cape Canaveral, also in Camden County, Georgia, Tarboro County, 3 to 4 injuries there, with a possible tornado having touched down in the wee hours of the morning just after midnight. And a closer look at radar
for the metro Atlanta area shows the heavier cells now sweeping between Atlanta and Rome, Georgia, moving on off to the northeast. And we take a look at the storm system as it is producing widespread rain through the Ohio Valley toward the mid-Atlantic states. And you can see a lot of tight isobars here, steep pressure gradient between the low pressure area over western Tennessee and high pressure over eastern Canada, making for rather breezy conditions. And as the precipitation spreads on into New England tonight and collides with some colder air, there will be a wintry mix for your morning drive to work across parts of New England. So tune in the Weather Channel when you get up in the morning, and we'll update you on the conditions at that time. Stay with us, and if you're going to be away from your TV set and you want to get the latest weather information, check into the Weather Channel's online service, weather.com. And now back to the studio and Mike Bono for what's happening elsewhere across the nation.
Thanks a lot, Dan. Strangely enough, if you're looking for winter weather, you could have found it in Southern California overnight.